Good afternoon. It is Monday, September 8th, 2025. This is a special meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. We're live at City Hall Commissioners Room, second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 1:02 p.m. Let's start off with roll call. Commissioner Mark Saunders.
Present.
Commissioner Suzanne Good.
Present.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski is absent. Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Bunky Markert.
Here.
Commissioner Craig Thier.
Here.
And Mayor Stan Mills. We have a quorum and are able to formally conduct business today. I would like to thank everybody that's here watching virtually and also those that are here in person. And if you would make note at the bottom of the agenda are the public comment guidelines. We look forward to your feedback. With that, I want to remind everybody that support documents, those are documents that support our individual agenda items when they're ready a sufficient time ahead of the meeting, are embedded in the agenda. And I believe today there are no support documents to access. So we're all working from without support documents. Would like to make a couple clarifications. As this topic seemingly has caused confusion for some as to the action being taken, I'd like to clarify, number one, what a right of first refusal confers. The particular agenda item, quote, the offering of a right of first refusal for the lease of 11 Christian Street to Clear Space Theater and consider authorizing the city manager to prepare such agreement, unquote, is to discuss just that. Whether or not to grant a right of first refusal to Clear Space for the property where the senior center now resides. A right of first refusal does not guarantee that the Clear Space will lease the property, but rather it provides an opportunity to enter into negotiations should the property become available. Yes, the senior center has announced their intent to move, but that is not imminent, and in fact, timing is unknown. When and if that occurs, then all of the issues, questions, etc., will be raised for the public consideration at that time. Offering a lease does not mean we are giving approvals for building design, parking layout, clear space desired, height allowances, etc. And this topic is not addressing the term sheet that's been discussed before. Discussing the term sheet would be a future step with clear space. The sequence today would be, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor Tedder in a minute. And then we're going to go to Joe Fall with clear space. We'll have commissioner discussion, and then there'll be plenty of opportunity for public comment. I do want to say that there has also been confusion as to the second item on the agenda, and that topic has nothing to do with clear space, so just so you know. And then again, there will be a citizen comment opportunity at the end of the agenda as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor Tedder.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners, members of the public. So this item is simply, first off, for discussion about a first right of refusal for the Christian Street property. So last year, the Commissioners passed a resolution that you were in support of retaining Clear Space Theater Company in the City of Rehoboth Beach city limits. And of course, we have discussed this previously related to a term sheet, and that will be coming back to you hopefully in October. But this specific item was staff putting our heads together, trying to think of a way that we could signal to Clear Space's board that we are serious about keeping them in the city. And since they do still have interest in the Christian Street property, we've recently met with the senior center. Of course, they're having issues with grant funding that they did have secured. Now that funding has gone away, so now they've moved towards a fundraising approach for the remainder of the funds they need to move to their new location. But of course, we want the seniors to stay as long as they need to, but recognizing that in the future, the property will become available. Offering a right of first refusal on this property would essentially give ClearSpace first place to move forward with that property over anyone else. Of course, in the past, we've discussed this would be some type of land lease where they would be able to construct their facility on that parcel of land. But that's kind of the background on how this item culminated to this point to you today. And next, we'll hear a little bit more from Joe, the Executive Director of ClearSpace, with some renderings and other things to offer you.
That leads to you. Joe, reintroduce yourself to everybody.
Of course. My name is Joe Fowler. I'm the Managing Director at ClearSpace Theater Company. Thank you all for having me today. I'm going to click the button to help fill the screen here. So I'm pleased today to share a brief update and to recap some of ClearSpace's progress to date in analyzing the Christian Street parcel, as well as share data showing the current direct economic impact that ClearSpace provides the city, the businesses, and the residents of Rehoboth Beach, and how in the future this project will dramatically expand that positive impact for all. There are more slides here than I can cover in a short amount of time, so I'm going to gloss over a few, but everything in here I understand will go into the public record so that this is available for any and all to review in greater depth. And I want to share, I'm grateful that this is a starting point in the city's considerations as to how to help to signal through a vote direction for the city to work in partnership with ClearSpace. And I echo others in saying I look forward to a future conversation where we can spend a little bit more time looking at what is possible within the context of a term sheet as we move forward. But that is a topic for another day. So based on feedback from this group, ClearSpace has invested in a number of white model drawings to show what a new performing arts center on Christian Street might look like. And I say might very clearly because until we have done the work of working with the citizens, engaging an architect, and making actual plans with an understanding of what the restrictions may be on how the land is used, this is simply one of a range of sort of hypothetical possibilities. But to quote one of our commissioners, we wanted to bring some sizzle to the steak. So we have some sizzle, hopefully, in this initial cover slide, which shows a view of the potential new facility from the park, with lobby entrance on grade facing what's currently the back of the Anna Hazard House with the Belmore Hotel to the right. It's a white model. It doesn't show materiality. None of that's been determined or decided and won't be until citizen engagement and the engagement of an architect for this project. These next slides just provide views of the existing site, showing the current senior center, parking, and the Anna Hazard House via a satellite from above. Then again here, showing the same site in a more schematic form. And then finally here in a three-dimensional white model rendering of the site to provide context for what the site is currently. ClearSpace arrived at this site being one of the two final sites for consideration for a new performing arts center through the work of a market and site selection study. Of the two sites, the Christian Street site is the site for which we've been prioritizing negotiations since July and until at least October of this year. On this next slide, you'll see the questions which were examined in our market study process, and to the right, the various methodologies that were used to assess answers. Many constituents were engaged outside of the ClearSpace staff and board to assess the scope, impact, and desirability of a range of sites. A few of the individuals interviewed in the focus groups are in this room today. You can see them all listed here in front of you. And folks who could not participate due to schedule or other conflicts did participate in the community survey that was subsequently conducted. From this work, our partners at Theater Projects came to findings around the following items: alignment as to the need for ClearSpace to move to a new home, ClearSpace's competitive market advantage in making that move, which sites should be studied further, the scope of the new facility, the economic impact of the new facility, and the readiness of our audience and our donor base. In positioning this performing arts center for the future, a new facility will address critical untapped needs here in Sussex County. Simply put, the physical infrastructure of our region's arts offerings dramatically is underdeveloped relative to the size of our population, the density of tourism, and the demand for quality venues. This next slide shows how few venues are actually currently in coastal Delaware through independent research that was done by the Delaware Arts Alliance as part of building their statewide CREATE plan. Not a single venue on this map is purpose-built currently for the arts. And the only performing arts venue in Rehoboth Beach, other than ClearSpace in this analysis, is the bandstand. This leads us to the scope of the building project for ClearSpace. Gross square footage of just under 40,000 square feet, including 2 stages, rehearsal spaces, front-of-house space, and facilities that can be used by the community at large for meetings, for gallery space, or any other opportunity that may be tied to a public-private partnership with the city for use of that space when ClearSpace is not in production. But we have heard very clearly from commissioners this question: what's actually in it for Rehoboth Beach? Beyond the intangible feel-good quality of life improvements that are already made possible by professional theater here in Rehoboth, what's the actual value proposition? So we have a few answers that you can consider today. There's a lot on the slide, so I'm only going to point to a few pieces. But first, from the same independent study from the Delaware Arts Alliance mentioned earlier, a series of objectives have been defined for the future of the arts in Sussex County at the state level. What you'll see first circled in yellow in the upper left is to stimulate economic activity. And you might ask, how is that possible through the arts? So I would direct your attention to the little arrows, yellow arrows in the lower right of the screen, and you will see that their study showed an average multiplier effect of the arts in Delaware of 61%. What that means is that on average, for every dollar that's spent by the arts, an additional 61 cents in revenue is generated by the broader economy. Now, as you'll see in a moment, an analysis of ClearSpace's numbers shows even more significant gains. Theater projects, and some of these are slides directly from our market studies, so I'm just highlighting so you don't have to read along with me. Theater project studies showed for Rehoboth Beach and for ClearSpace that impact plays out in the following ways: increased job opportunities, elevating cultural offerings for the region, a source of community pride, a draw for visitors supporting local business, a launching pad for redevelopment of other properties around the new theater, and expanded education for youth. In the analysis that theater projects provided, we see that on Christian Street, this is most pronounced. That impact is most pronounced because of specific opportunities around parking, tourism, increased community visibility, and ultimately cultural synergy as well. Today, ClearSpace is already growing rapidly, and as we grow, so does the benefit to our broader community. Between 2023 and 2024, our attendance at our theater grew by 34.9%. So that predates the information on this slide. Since then, we are already seeing further dramatic growth, up at least another 3,000 attendees year over year from that very strong spike in growth last year. And our Arts Institute, providing education for young people and retired adults, is also growing to the very limits of the capacity of those programs. While the percentage of patrons who park versus walk or take the bus during the summer, as you'll see where the little car is roughly flat year over year. What you will notice quickly is the percentage of our audiences dining in downtown Rehoboth has grown in just the last year, and dramatically so has the percentage of audiences coming to us from outside of Sussex County. Recent peer-reviewed studies show that these visitors, often called cultural tourists, spend 38% more per day and stay 22% longer when they travel and experience live theater. And of those that do travel to experience the arts, 32% add extra time to their trips simply to engage in more arts events. In short, these are the tourists that businesses in any community would be hungry to welcome through their doors. So, we made a few assumptions to assess the economic impact today and in the future. You can see our average price per head for pre-show dining is quite modest at $35 a day. That's the $35 a head. That's the number we're using as the baseline. So when you see some future numbers and say, those numbers seem large, if we actually were to figure out what people are really spending per meal, per night in Rehoboth, the numbers would grow pretty dramatically from where they are. But we wanted to present some conservative numbers so that everyone can see clearly the impact based on just that assumption. Similarly, you can see that we've made a reasonably conservative estimate of what an average room rate is for a hotel. I'll give you all a second if you want to scan the rest of this. As you look ahead to the new facility, there is additional parking that's proposed as part of this project, which would all be revenue for the city as well. And I have a lot of detail as how some of those figures were calculated by time of day, day of week, etc. But factoring all of this together, even with these very conservative estimates, the numbers show a profound impact. Between parking from patrons and the 6% occupancy tax, ClearSpace is generating directly to the city of Rehoboth right now about $104,000 per year going into city coffers, with a total economic impact between that direct revenue, dining, and accommodations of over $1.5 million. With the parking plan that's been envisioned for the new Performing Arts Center on Christian Street, in year one, that new facility would generate over $427,000 directly to the city and over $2.7 million in total impact. And at full utilization, which we recognize will take a few years, maybe 5 or 6, at full utilization, those figures grow to $689,000 to the city and $5.4 to the businesses in Rehoboth Beach. Without ClearSpace in Rehoboth, that is economic impact that's lost to the city and to the businesses that call Rehoboth home. Now, a few commissioners have also asked whether a public-private partnership model, such as what has been discussed, has been done anywhere else in a community that isn't in a major metropolitan center. So to close, I'm just going to share 2 examples of communities not much larger than the population of the zip codes of Rehoboth or Lewis, not, of course, the 1 mile that is the city, but looking a little bit regionally, looking at communities of that scale, which have invested in ensuring that the arts can thrive in their communities and what the impact has been in those places. So first, in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is about a 14-square-mile municipality with a population of just under 32,000 currently, located about an hour from downtown Atlanta in Gwinnett County. The city has invested not once, but twice in the construction of performing arts infrastructure. Why twice? Because after its first $7.5 million investment to woo the Aurora Theater to leave the community of Duluth, which was 12 miles away, to relocate to Lawrenceville, the municipality of Lawrenceville experienced such strong positive economic impact to its downtown, revitalizing storefronts that had lacked consistent businesses and restaurants for some time, that after a number of years, 13 years, they began the process to create a second performing arts center adjacent to the one they had originally built, ultimately to the tune of another $15.5 million investment. And in Kirkwood, Missouri, which is a slightly smaller community, about 9 square miles in size in suburban St. Louis County, total municipal investment of $21.4 million was made to build the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center, now home to a professional musical theater company called Stages. Since moving into that new state-of-the-art facility, Stages has been able to produce 2 pre-Broadway tryouts of new musicals, dramatically improving the caliber and prestige of its offerings to residents and driving significant new business to the restaurants in walking distance from the facility. Ultimately, how ClearSpace and the city proceed together in partnership will be grounded not only in this kind of long-term positive impact to our residents, our businesses, and our tourists, and more, but also through meaningful dialogue with the community around architectural plans, as I'd mentioned earlier. While we have a range of possibilities for what that could look like, we know nothing can be final until our ClearSpace board can vote to approve a site for construction. Should questions arise about those options as we talk, I do have additional slides to show context for what different configurations could be possible, but I've already taken up quite a bit of your time, and I want to cede the floor back to this august group. So thank you very much for your time and allowing me to share some of this information.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Of course, a reminder, the agenda topic is to consider offering a right of first refusal for the lease of 11 Christian Street, which is the senior center to the ClearSpace Theater Company. consider authorizing the city manager to prepare such statement. Again, we've mentioned the right of first refusal. Perhaps we should define it real quick. It would be that essentially that if the senior center that holds the lease now for that property vacates or terminates the lease, then the city would approach ClearSpace first, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. And I would also like to offer that no agreement has been drafted yet. The action we're looking at for today is for you to direct me, if you so wish, to prepare such an agreement. And that agreement would not mention terms or amount of money. It would literally give ClearSpace first in line to have a go at that property if it changed hands.
So we'll go to commissioners for any questions, and then we'll go to the members of the public.
Mayor, Martin, go.
Commissioner Saunders?
Just, wouldn't it be wise perhaps to state it that the deal, if you will, would commence when we get notice from the senior citizen that they're going to move rather than actually when they've moved? I mean, I can see a year difference, between when they give us notice that they're vacating and when they actually vacate. And I would think that we'd want to become in effect, if you will, at the time that they give us notice.
Right, so I don't think the right of first refusal would be dependent on whether they're out or not. It would be whenever the city
what
would
I
be
wanted to
ready
make sure,
to,
right,
would be ready to move forward with
the rest of it.
negotiating with the new
And how would
person.
the hazard house be affected?
That would definitely be part of their site plan and the potential for their term sheet at a later date.
So the land under the house is included in this contract that we're looking at?
It is part of the parcel.
It is part of it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Good?
I'm worried this is premature unless we put some conditions on this, because as I unfortunately was out of town, I think it was March 11th, when the term sheet, which was a negotiation, it appears, between certain administrators in the city, maybe the mayor, I'm not sure, and ClearSpace, was not available to the board, it appeared, until the day of the meeting, which has happened before, with like employment contracts are not available until literally the meeting is commencing. So I think that this is a reasonable use of city-owned land with the lease. I don't have a problem with that. But the way this is working, and for background, we know that ClearSpace flipped some land back in December 2019 to sometime in 2021, and timed the market really well with that. We also know that their finances allow them to purchase some privately owned land in Lewis and build their theater there as an alternative. So my issue are the three three components of the term sheet. One is that the city should bear the costs, which was estimated at the time as $750,000 for the demolition of the senior center.
No,
My problem is that this
is not to
this
talk about
vote,
the term
if we
sheet.
take it, the problem is it'll have us going down a road where the term sheet that was worked out without agreement from everyone includes demolition costs, includes even a $1
Commissioner
million subsidy to the theater, plus the cost of moving the Anna Hazard House to Grove Park, which might actually be a good location for it, similar to the Ship Carpenters area in Lewis with some outdoor exhibits,
Commissioner, you're going a little out of bounds there,
Well, I'm
please.
just worried that I can't, I hope some of the others of you will be concerned about right of first refusal without putting some limits on what additional subsidy in addition, well, for giving Clear Space $1 per year lease, 30-year lease is a huge subsidy. And I don't actually have a problem with that. I have a problem that this is so open-ended under a term sheet that I did see finally in March.
Commissioner
which
Good,
has, close
may
to
I?
$2 million in additional subsidy.
May I please? We can't put conditions on a right of first refusal. The right of first refusal is simply that, without a term sheet. There cannot be conditions on it in that manner. A right of first
Why can't there
refusal
be
simply
conditions on it?
says that should the property become available, we will begin negotiations to determine whether or not Clear Space is going to take the property. That's all it is. It is not a term sheet, nor is it a discussion of the provisions in a term sheet.
Well, if that's true, then this is very premature, because we have not allowed anyone else any other developer to make offers on that land or suggest alternate uses for the land. It just seems, that seems a little worrisome to me. And in addition to the fact that you're not willing to put some constraints on this right of first refusal to not leave taxpayers with the term sheet that was put together by a very small subset of people here.
So I would offer that the commissioners have the ultimate authority of what terms will look like, and that will move forward at a later date, hopefully in October.
I mean, we have the same thing with a $25,000 salary raise in November. Like, we'll do things that then leave us subject to whatever whims we might, encounter 6 months, in this case, 4 years later. It just doesn't seem like a professional way of doing business to me.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thayer?
Yeah, so I as well have questions about our timing, or if we're really at the point to execute a letter of intent. And for me specifically, it is letter of intent for what, right? What are they going to build? There are a lot of questions in the community. There's a lot of history in the community related to Clear Space in the past. For example, related to height, related to parking. So what is it that they're going to build? So I'd really like to understand that before we talk about a letter of intent. So that's one. Two,
To be clear, just to be clear, the terms are important. This is not a letter of intent. It is a right of first refusal. The right of
Okay.
first refusal simply means that we own the property at a point in time where the present tenant leaves the property.
got it. Okay.
The right
Sorry.
of first refusal simply means that we will go to Clear Space first.
All right. So,
Thereafter, any conversation related to what they build, how they build it, when they build it, that will all be discussed and negotiated in the public at a later date. The only thing this says is when and if the present tenant is leaving, we will not put it out for market. We will simply go to Clear Space first. Thereafter, every single piece of the negotiation will be discussed with the public.
I understand what you're saying, and I apologize for using the wrong term, but I'm going to make the same point, which is, what am I giving them the right of first refusal for, right? We have no idea what they're going to build. And as I was saying, there's history here with height and parking and so on and so forth. Let me finish, right? So I don't understand. So I would like to see concepts of what they're going to build. Okay, that's one. Two, we're talking about right of first refusal. We're talking about terms. How does this fit? I understand we're not talking about terms today, but was said by Mr. Tedder was, we're going to talk about right of first refusal today, and then we're going to come back in October and we're going to talk about terms. It's exactly what he said. Okay, so how does this timing, does it work? Does it not work with some of the things? I'm looking for Clear Space. Some of the things that I'm hearing out in the community about what their timing is. Because
I think that's what Joe just explained, to be clear. Again, just so we're all, I continue to level set because I think it's fundamentally important that we agree what we are legally obligated to do. The only thing we are legally obligated to do by this right of first refusal is speak to clear space. Period. That is all that the legal terminology is requiring us to do. What clear space intends to build, how they intend to build it, parking and
But
height
you don't think that that's important, all the things that you just mentioned? Hold on, let me finish, right? You don't think those things are important in the consideration of giving them a right of first refusal?
I do not, because all of those things will be discussed thereafter.
Well, what if someone, as Commissioner Good said, what if someone else comes along and wants to give us, $62 million for the property?
But those are two different things. If somebody else wants to come along and do
So
that,
why
that's
can't we-
fundamentally, that's different than, do we care what they're going to build and how they're going to do it?
A lot of people in this community care.
And they will be given every opportunity to discuss what it is that they're going to build and how they're going to build it. It will all be for public discussion. That's the point of a right of first refusal, so that we're giving them the opportunity to come to you all and discuss everything they want to do first.
So I heard a couple of O's in the out there. So I don't want to be interpreted as I'm against clear space. But I think it's important that as a community, there are a lot of people out there asking what they're going to build. And I think it's important as a community we start to understand what the designs are. It's not an unreasonable expectation.
Anybody else up here before we go to the public?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Commissioner Thier and I have different reasons for having hesitation, but I, for instance, would be on board for this if we at least put some constraints. I mean, we know the theater is capable financially of building in Lewis and purchasing on private property that they have to purchase from someone. They don't, aren't going to be paying $1 a year. And I actually have more faith. I mean, with all due respect, Commissioner Thier, and you may be right. I've actually spoken. I have a close friend and her husband who live right on 2nd Street. There are many people who are very favorable, and they even are on board to giving a variance for the height, because we're not going to have 15 theaters requiring height variances in town. Like, I think there's a lot of support for it. But the fact that the term sheet had such lavish terms with taxpayers footing bills that, to me, are just of a magnitude that this city can't afford. Everyone, all of us or most of us really love the theater, want to keep it in town. But we can't say, well, no price is too high. $2 million to me is too high when I believe the theater has the resources. Even if that means that we're to build a smaller theater, which maybe would not require the city, because under the term sheet, the city pays to move that Anna Hazard house. That alone is another $75,000 or $100,000. So I don't know. I think Commissioner Thier and I could come to some agreement where we have two, different hesitations, but the outcome of granting the right of first refusal without any constraints on it. I mean, we're hearing from the city solicitor somehow we don't need that. I disagree. I think we need some constraints on it, or we'll be left with whatever term sheet the powers that be present as like a fait accompli. That's how it works in this city often, and I'm fearful of that.
Commissioner Good, I need to be clear on the statement, because what you just said is not exactly what I said, so we need to be clear. The right of first refusal has nothing to do with a term sheet. The term sheet is to be discussed and negotiated thereafter. The only thing a right of first refusal does is allow the city to speak to clear space first. No term sheet, as if a term sheet doesn't exist at present. All further negotiations related to any of the terms will be done thereafter. So please do not conflate the two, because that is not a fair assessment of the situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Saunders?
I agree with Attorney Ogden that we don't want to conflate the two. But I also want to remind folks that the original term sheet was given to us, 6 or 7 months ago, and we've sort of done nothing with it. and we can't expect ClearSpace to wait for us forever. I would hate to lose them, to tell quite honestly, and I would hate to lose them because we dilly-dallied around. I'm glad that Mr. Tedder says that we may have a review of the term sheet in October, but I'd like it better if he said for sure we'll have a review of the term sheet in October.
Yes, so we will have a review of the term sheet in October. I have continued meeting with Mr. Fowler for quite some time, as well as Evan, our Assistant City Manager, and that is one of the reasons this item has come to you today, is I wanted to make sure that we continued to signal to ClearSpace that the city is dedicated to somehow having them at that site, and so
This
this
is a
would...
token, and I'm all for it.
Anybody else? Sorry, go ahead.
Just a question with regards to this. In first of right of refusals that I've been involved with before, have always been regard of sale of property. It is, and a lease aspect seems to be a bit different than, I know, because there is no ground, no actual commitment to monies involved in that regard. That is what's tied into a right of first refusal, as I understand it. So applying this methodology to a lease, can you help me understand how that differs? Because I'm not familiar with that in any regards. And also in that aspect, in some of in many of the right of first refusal, is regards that there is a time frame involved, that if we provide a right of first refusal, that decision has to be made by the other party within X number of days, and a financial commitment or something of that nature. So help me understand if those same aspects of a right of first refusal and a sale of property, how they, or if they apply to a lease.
Certainly, Commissioner. A right of first refusal, the simple term is that you go to that person first. When you're talking about the sale of a property, generally speaking, you have somebody wants to buy your property, and you then say to them, okay, I'm not ready to sell now, but I will give you a right of first refusal. That's the normal course. A lease, it's certainly a legally permissible use in a lease as well. It's the individual that owns the property. We can make this right of first refusal for a lease available to ClearSpace. There is no prohibition against that with a lease and a sale.
And could you outline what the elements of that right of first refusal will contain?
Ours will be very simple. It will have no monetary value, and it will do nothing other than say, exactly as we have said, that we will, when the property becomes available, and that's a timing issue. I don't mean time, I mean there is no longer a lessee in the property. It will be available to ClearSpace before it is available on the open market. Because had the senior center indicated their intent to leave, that we would have a property to lease. Now we have a property to lease, and we will be going to ClearSpace first to see if they are interested in the most basic of terms. ClearSpace is interested, as we know, and we will continue to work with them on the particulars of the lease, what the yearly rental will be, what the terms will be. All of those are part and parcel of a regular negotiation that you would do with any other entity that would want to lease the property. None of that is impacted by our right of first refusal, and truthfully, this is our indication of how much the city is interested in having ClearSpace remain. This is the only way we can signal it at present, in large part because there is a tenant in the space at the moment.
Mr. Mayor?
I've struggled a little bit with this. I need to mention term sheet in relation to right of first refusal, because I've been of the belief that further discussion of the term sheet would occur 1 to 5 years out when the termination of the lease for ClearSpace is imminent. So I'm having a hard time struggling. And if I believe that, then my thought of right of first refusals, well, that helps give a placeholder for ClearSpace. That, as I prefaced in the beginning, that offering a lease does not mean we are giving approvals for building design or zoning compliance or height restrictions or any of that, none of that. That is to come, as our solicitor has said, at a later date. So again, I'm struggling a little bit with timeline and think that acting on a right of first refusal might be the best thing for now, but bringing further discussion or resuming discussion of the term sheet for me is many years farther into the future.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thayer?
I'm going to look to Clear Space. Could you be very clear with us on what your timeline is?
In July, decision was made for ClearSpace to move forward in negotiation with the city of Rehoboth on the parcel on Christian Street. The negotiations were not intended to be indefinite, and through conversations with individual commissioners and through conversations with the city manager, the indication was given to us reasonably early in that negotiation process that October was a fair and reasonable timeline to consider further terms. So if further terms aren't considered by that point, then it is entirely possible that the board will proceed with no longer having exclusive negotiations with the city of Rehoboth and may open up negotiations with other parcels. Now, I understand there are multiple timelines at play here, and you can do what you can do in this moment, and that then signals what you intend or intend not to signal to ClearSpace, and then allows ClearSpace to make decisions moving forward. But we have been working internally under the assumption of an October timeline based on what information had been communicated to us.
Anybody else before I go to the public?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
So, right, with the rights of first refusal I've seen, like in a condo association, the reason I feel this is getting us into trouble, in that case, there's a mutually agreed upon appraisal, I think usually carried out by the seller. So other owners in the condo or co-op have first dibs before it gets, marketed on MLS. The problem here is if we are transferring this for $1 per year for 30 years, I think we need something in, we're being told by the attorney, by our in-house solicitor that we can't do this. I don't believe that's true. I think we need to say we will consider this contingent on no guarantees of additional subsidy because the land lease is already a massive subsidy to an organization which, based on my knowledge of their various transactions and their various funding, I know we're hearing they've lost some federal funding, but, they have a lot of private, they have a lot of local philanthropists and other, and theater goers who contribute. So that's my problem. Like, I think that we're signing away something that could potentially end up with another $2 million paid by taxpayers between I heard there was a $1 million subsidy in the March term sheet plus $750,000 demolition costs, plus the cost would be borne by the city to move that Anna Hazard house. And no one wants to, I can't imagine people signing up for something without at least putting constraints on the finances the way, if you're a condo owner in a building, you're not going to get some bargain price. It's just you have the option at a market clearing price to purchase the adjacent condo to you before it gets advertised to anyone else. That's all it is.
Thank you.
We're not doing due diligence here, in my view.
Thank you, Suzanne. Let's go to the members of the public. Cindy, you're first. All speakers, your name and relationship to the city.
Cindy Lovett, resident, 4 Canal Street. My head is spinning right now. I have so many things I want to say. How many people in this room know that there was a young actor 2 years ago, I think, who was nominated for a Tony Award for the show Outsiders on Broadway? How many places can say that? What's his name, Joe? Brody Grant. He is on Broadway right now. And part of it is good chance is because of what he did here at ClearSpace. The kid was amazing. That's my first thought. Second, okay, we don't give them the right, say, okay, we opened it up for bids. What are we gonna get? 8 million, 15, I don't know, 20 million? What's gonna go there? A hotel? Another one? Everybody's freaking out about the hotels we're getting now. More shops, more houses. Find me one other thing that could go in this town that would benefit Rehoboth other than ClearSpace. I don't know about you, but I can't think of a thing. Down where Catchers is, that big property's for sale. What's gonna go in there? You know, ClearSpace, we go to the shows all the time. I'm shaking, I'm sorry, I'm so upset. We go to these shows all the time. Do you know how many people I usually know? Maybe 5. Because people come from out of town, they eat dinner, they shop, they stay at our hotels. They benefit this town. And these aren't the people that buy an ice cream and a slice of pizza. These are people that come in, spend money downtown. I'm just shocked that people are saying that there are residents worried about what the building's gonna like. I haven't heard a thing. And I talked to a lot of people, let me tell you. The impact of a theater in a downtown elevates the character of the town. What else is going to elevate the character of this town other than a theater? I mean, really, can you think of anything? I really need that to sit there for a minute. What else? It's not about art. I'm shaking so hard, I'm sorry. It's not about art, it's about an economic driver. They will use our town, and these are people that have the money to spend. Productions attract audiences who dine out, shop, and stay in the area, boosting local businesses. The quality of the shows at ClearSpace are beyond reproach. I don't know how many people have never been to ClearSpace, but I'm telling you, if you haven't, you are really, really missing something. I think it is an absolute 100% no-brainer that we put whatever we need to do. We can't lose these people. They're going to go to Lewis. You know, I mean, we can't take this chance. We have got to work with ClearSpace. I mean, this is a baby step as far as I'm seeing it, to sign this right of first refusal. There's all kinds of things that could be talked about and worked out and negotiated later. But the big thing is, we can't lose ClearSpace. Please, please work on this.
Thank you, Cindy. Anybody else? Jan?
Actually, I don't have very many.
Name.
Oh, Jan Conacy, 42 Oak Avenue, resident of Rehoboth. My question is, so you do a right of first refusal, which sounds perfectly innocent. What happens when you sit down to negotiate if you can't come to an agreement? Does you know, what's the city's option then? Because I don't understand that part of it. So if you can't come to an agreement on the details on what ClearSpace wants versus what the city wants, then does then the first refusal doesn't count, or what's the next step if you can't come to an agreement? That's one question. The other question is, I understand all the economic, everybody says it all the time, but the fact of the matter is, other than the parking and the lodging tax, you know, they can have restaurants where the people are, you know, there's 40 people standing outside. We don't have a restaurant tax in the state of Delaware. We don't tax most of the things in the state of Delaware. So, and the gross receipts tax that we do have goes to the state. So I think that, you know, when we talk about the economic impact, yes, I love ClearSpace. I love going to ClearSpace. I've enjoyed everything I've seen there. And like somebody said, most of the people there, I don't even know who they are. And that doesn't happen often in Rehoboth. More in the winter, actually. You don't know who the people are because they come from out of town. But I guess one of the things that I've never heard anybody say up here is, okay, we give the right of first refusal, we sit down to negotiate. There's no way in this world that you all come to terms. Then what's the city's option then? Does the city say, well, the first refusal doesn't count? Or you know, it ends here because we can't, I don't know what the option is, and that's my question.
Thank you, Jan. Anybody else? Jay?
I'm Jay LaGreen. I think I know everybody here. I live over in the south part of town. This is a very dangerous thing that we're doing. Not for us, for ClearSpace. Having them shoehorn themselves in that 53,000 square feet of Martin's Lawn is not good. ClearSpace needs a campus. They don't need a spot in Martin's Lawn. They need to be able to branch out. They're going to get 300. It's a thing of and all those statistics are, I'm sure they're true. They are going to be way too big for Martin's Lawn, and they're going to rue the day that they built their. If they're going to go with 26,000 square feet like they did on the 13th of October in 2018, they should be going bigger than that. I think you said 40, didn't you? Can you imagine 40,000 square feet? I'm assuming you're counting the first floor, the parking garage. The second 2 floors, you're counting the building. And then the top, you go to 62 feet with your fly loft.
Depending upon how the building is constructed.
That's true. And the prints you had before, your stage was 47 feet wide. You only had 215 seats, but it was 47 feet wide. That's a lot of space at 62 feet. So you're going to have opposition. But that's as the solicitor said, we're not here to talk about that. What this does, it lets you hang your hat on a piece of property that you probably are not going to want. The traffic is going to be worse than it is now in 2 years, and now it's horrible to get your 300 folks with their 100 cars in. You're going to have to compete with Oceanus parking lot. You're going to have to compete with everybody cutting to the left to not have to go down Rehoboth Avenue, because Christian Street is the shortcut. It is one of the most traveled, dense, worst traffic tie-ups in Rehoboth. Let me finish. I only have 3 minutes. You can get good. I'm sorry, Stan. When the traffic gets so thick out on Highway 1, like it was this summer, people are coming from everywhere. Nothing moves. I'm now sitting on Munson and Grove and Henlopen and Columbia traffic jams, and you're going to try to get 300 patrons into this little shoehorn spot that takes up most of Martin's Lawn, which should be open space. So I think it's dangerous for you, and I don't think you should agree to any kind of a first refusal or anything. I was hoping that you would, I'm sorry. I was hoping that you'd do something with Baymart. God, was that a tremendous opportunity. And you have another opportunity. You could talk to the folks who own that 6 acres out there on Hebron Road. Can you imagine what a campus you could put out there with the acre on one side and on the other?
It hasn't been studied and it's not a viable parcel, but I'm happy to talk to you more offline.
Okay.
Very happy to.
I think you're making a mistake.
Thank you, Jay.
And I wish you wouldn't. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Jay. Do you,
Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
start off with your name?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Chris Trejos. You probably know my father, Michael Trejos, a bit better than myself, but we're residential and commercial property owners in the city of Rehoboth for many decades. Obviously, I think it's fairly self-evident by a lot of the comments. Obviously, the quality of the performances that ClearSpace provides to the city of Rehoboth Beach. We have a Broadway quality performance center in our little town by the ocean. This is something that obviously not only supports economic activity, but also the value of the residential properties, the ability that people can live in the city of Rehoboth, go to clean beaches, the boardwalk, have first-class dining, and go to walk and see first-class Broadway quality performances is what makes us so special. I think, and I'd like to get maybe Ms. Ogden's feedback on this. I'm an attorney and our family's been involved in commercial real estate development for many decades. We've been involved in first right of refusal situations. Typically, in our experience, when you issue a first right of refusal, yes, it gives the city the opportunity to go to ClearSpace, hopefully agree to a deal that works for everybody. But if the parties can't come to an agreement, it then allows the city to go out, and if somebody were to come and offer a $62 million lease over the course of 30 years, Simply, it would allow ClearSpace then to come and match that. So the city isn't in fact losing out on anything. What it does is I think it's strongly signaling to ClearSpace that yes, we're committed to you. We want this partnership to last for many decades to come. But I think it's just very important, and Ms. Ogden can correct me if the first right of refusal terms are different, but we are not handing over the future economic viability of the space or greater funds. What it's saying is, if in Commissioner Thier's situation, a commercial developer comes and says, I'm willing to offer $62 million, then ClearSpace could have the option to match, and if they can't, then the $62 million would come to the city of Rehoboth Beach. So I would hope that the mayor and commissioners would strongly move forward with signing off on this first right of refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
Yes, I am.
Frank Cooper?
Frank Cooper, 96 East Lake Drive. I am adamant that we keep clear space in this town. The CDP calls for it. The general emphasis of all the people that I've supported on this commission is for maintaining the character and the charm of Rehoboth Beach. And one of the things, the character of this town that we want to maintain is the high standards of tourists and people who come here and spend money and the types of things that they do. Now, we've got a megalopolis growing out on Route 1, and I refuse to cede one of the gems of downtown Rehoboth Beach to that mess out on Route 1. I mean, we have lost Nicola's, we have lost Royal Treat, we have lost other things that injure this town. And we need to hold on to ClearSpace. It is a gem that's popped up, that has grown. It's the type of thing that defines what an urban center, what the feel, the nature, the culture of a town is. This is fundamental to the nature of Rehoboth Beach. This is fundamental to our character, to have this type of thing in the city of Rehoboth Beach, not out there. We do not want the rest of Sussex County to determine what Rehoboth Beach is and what it is in the minds of people who come to this area, where everything is a shopping mall and all of the city of Rehoboth Beach remains is a strip of boardwalk and t-shirt shops. That's not what the character of the people who live here are, or they want it to, and not what the character of this town that they want it to be. The citizens of Rehoboth Beach have made it very clear they want clear space here. And I think it's incumbent upon you, all of you, to make every effort you can within practical means to keep them here. This is a minor step. This is a no-brainer. I mean, come on. This is a right of first refusal. It does not guarantee that you have to come to terms with them. It's saying that we want clear space here and that this city and the residents and the government of this city want to continue this partnership, having a performing arts center. And should ClearSpace fail, or ClearSpace decide they want to move someplace else, we inherit a performing arts center out of this on our property, right? I mean, this is a win-win, quite honest with you. So grab this. I mean, this is a right of first refusal. I can't stress more that this is my baby step.
Thank you, Frank.
And do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Your name and relationship to the city?
Yes, Lion Gardner. I own the property at 42.5 Baltimore Avenue, as well as a couple of restaurants downtown. And I've been doing business in Rehoboth for a long time, many, many years, and mostly on Baltimore Avenue. So I've kind of seen firsthand the benefits to the local businesses that having ClearSpace downtown has provided both to my business personally, but also to the surrounding businesses. So it's not just numbers on a screen in some survey. It's real. There's a concrete benefit to it, and I can attest to that. I think many people have already made a lot of great points about the people that ClearSpace brings to town, the kind of tourists that come because of ClearSpace. I want to just mention a little bit about some other things that haven't really been brought up, and that's that ClearSpace really provides options for people, residents as well, not just people coming in as tourists, and options for entertainment, yes, but also options for residents and visitors alike to enroll their children in some of their programming that they do there that's really wonderful and can occupy them for the course of the day. So they don't have to take them to summer camps or something like that outside of Rehoboth. It keeps families in Rehoboth that are here vacationing and spending time here or that live here. So I think that's a really great benefit that maybe a lot of people don't see, but we have children and they're involved with ClearSpace, and it's been a wonderful experience for them. And if they moved out of town, if they moved to Hebron Road or further out of town, I'm not sure if we'd be able to continue to do that. And I think a lot of people are probably in this similar situation that we are in. So it's important to us from that aspect that ClearSpace remains, in downtown Rehoboth as well. That's it. I'm going to keep it short. I think everyone
Thank
else
you very
said
much.
some really good stuff. So
Anybody else, Larry?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Larry Richardson, city resident, 8 Silver Lane. I'm here today in full support of first right of refusal and in full support of building a new ClearSpace performing arts center in Rehoboth Beach. My husband and I, we travel frequently out of the area, and we're often asked, why did you retire in Rehoboth? And I have hundreds of reasons why we retire in Rehoboth. But one of those reasons is one of our favorite experiences is a dinner in town, followed by a performance at ClearSpace Theater. I can't imagine the city moving forward without having a ClearSpace Theater. And I want to thank you, Joe. That economic analysis, that impact study, that's eye-opening. And I would love to know what other brick and mortar comes close to that. So I believe that a new ClearSpace Performing Arts Center can become a cornerstone for both tourism expansion and tourism diversification. It can expand tourism by increasing the scale and scope of what is currently offered at ClearSpace and provide additional capacity for other regional events. It can diversify our tourism by complementing the beach and boardwalk while also making Rehoboth more appealing to a wider range of travelers. A new performing arts center will enhance our city's ability to evolve and provide year-round services to its residents and visitors. That is precisely what was stated in our 2020 Comprehensive Development Plan. Downtown is clearly evolving. Following the recent approvals of the new downtown hotels and completion of the Rehoboth Beach Patrol facility, city officials stated that the new construction was part of a larger effort to revitalize downtown Rehoboth, attracting new investment, improving public safety, and upgrading amenities for both tourists and locals. I wholeheartedly support the city's goal to revitalize downtown Rehoboth. And a performing arts center will do just that. It will elevate the profile of our city and serve as a catalyst for sustained economic growth, benefiting our restaurants, our shops, and our broader downtown community. These beliefs are not just unique to my husband and me. Nearly everyone we speak to are equally passionate about keeping ClearSpace in Rehoboth. So, and I also like to have a little better clarity on at what point do we see things as a subsidy rather than an investment? Because again, that economic impact, that is truly eye-opening. So thank you for this opportunity to share my views on clear space and a performing arts center in Rehoboth. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Have you spoken? No. Okay.
Last meeting. Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I too want to support this. A right of first refusal is nothing more than they have the right to say, we want to negotiate or we don't want to negotiate. They get first option, but it doesn't guarantee that we'll get somewhere. But that property, having them go there would not only benefit the city as a whole, but we've got a lot of vacant restaurants over there that I could see being revitalized if they're there. Nothing has really survived the property where Chez La Mer was, and it's currently open again. You've got Sussex Public House that backs up to it. That's been vacant for years. You've got the one next to Lupo, vacant for years. If we get something that will draw people to that part of town, I think you're going to see vacant storefronts get gobbled up, and that does help the city financially through business license fees and the construction fees and the building permits and that kind of thing. So I too think this is a no-brainer that you go ahead and you give them that right. It signifies that we want them here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else? Tom?
Thank you. I'm Tom Wontorek. I'm a member of the Rehoboth Beach Public Library Board of Trustees. Speaking for myself, because the board hasn't taken any official action, I support trying to keep clear space in Rehoboth Beach rather than moving elsewhere. And I have some concerns just from the long term regarding parking and the parking spaces in Martin's Lot, which is a topic for some future talk once you talk terms and conditions. But just as far as the motion to give them a right of first refusal, if it's an open-ended right without a deadline, then I would be cautious because 10 or 15 years from now, the city might decide it has need for that space. And if they haven't exercised the right by then, would their right of first refusal preclude the city from using it for city purposes? I would suggest that Clear Space is clearly not ready to start construction tomorrow. They need to raise some more money. But they're going to be doing that within a reasonable time frame. I would just recommend that you have some sort of reasonable time period for the term of this right of first refusal so that they would have the opportunity to raise money by a certain date and you would have some idea when this would terminate. But clearly I'm in support of keeping it here. We've attended many, many performances there and we love it. And we go to Broadway in New York also. So basically I'm in support of it, but just the caution regarding should there be some reasonable time limit for the term of the right of first refusal. Thank you.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. Anybody new? No, we're going to bring it back to the table here. Seeking the next steps up here. Does anybody
Mayor?
want to make a motion or defer or
Make a question.
Commissioner Saunders?
Mrs. Condesi had a question that I don't think was answered, and I know the answer, but I'm not a lawyer. Attorney Ogden, would you be kind enough to answer her question legally?
Restate the question.
And her question was, what happens if we don't come to terms? Is that right, Jan? Right.
The short answer is nothing.
That's what I know what it is, but I wanted you to say it. Thank you.
Anybody?
Just a question for clarification if possible. And we have heard from the city manager that the revised term sheet will be presented in October. I'm curious that, I don't know that we work with such efficiency up here that if we could get the, I'm glad you're all awake, the right of first refusal going forward, and then just on the backside of coming in with a term sheet. I just see a conflict there in that regards. And as was stated, I think in the discussion many, many months ago, that the solicitor at that time stated that this current body could not make any commitments for future terms that was in 2030 or 2031. So I'm remembering that statement, maybe not wholeheartedly, but I'm just concerned on the timing. And I would support a letter of right of first refusal, but the devil's in the details kind of thing. So I'm just, the concept of having us come right in with a term sheet of a building or project that is 5 years off at the earliest.
Right. I think ultimately what our interim solicitor was providing guidance on is we wouldn't be able to assure certain variances or exceptions to rules, but we could execute an agreement of actual monetary terms, like a contract. But ultimately, this item was to show that, to signal to ClearSpace's board that, yes, we're committed and wanted to continue furthering this down the line. So that was staff's intent of this item, to further signal that, but ultimately, ClearSpace has indicated to me that they do need specific terms so that they can make a final decision.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding you, Mr. Tedder, but therein lies the problem. And I would be comfortable for this if we could get to some basic terms. But otherwise, it's so open-ended, and absolutely, like it might be 4 or 5 years from now, or 3 or 4 years from now, that the exact terms will be known. I'm not as fearful of the congestion problem as at least one speaker was, because of the staggered arrival, anyway, of most theater patrons. And usually by the time at least the very busy evening performances, once the curtain goes down, it's late enough at night. I mean, I live with a view of the westbound traffic, so it's late enough at night that it's moving freely, with the exception of the July 3rd or 5th fireworks. So I'm not as worried about that. I know people are worried about that. I'm just worried that we're not setting forth some conditions, if only for ClearSpace to have a better idea of how much financing they're going to have to come up with on their own. I mean, construction costs are obviously going to be considerable. And I've been told there is at least a partial basement to the building, which may make the demolition a little less problematic than otherwise, I've been told. So, the $750,000 estimate might actually be somewhat accurate. But again, my whole issue is that, all of us have loved the theater. My children, loved at one point there were some, Goldilocks and the Three Bears performances. I think they were on Tuesdays back in the 1990s. And it's, and it's a wonderful resource, and, it's a wonderful institution for the community. But the way we're signing this just smacks of the city handing over something without much oversight by the time the negotiations begin. So I'd like a modicum of some understanding for ClearSpace's benefit too, to know what they're going to have to come up with if this, comes to fruition. That the city, I know Commissioner Thier had a plan where the $1 million would be in the form of a loan that they would repay with $2 per ticket, ticket sales. That is like a nightmare scenario on that first term sheet.
Thank you,
So I want to
Susan.
make sure none of that is, we have to come up with something more reasonable before we enter into this.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
Can I, Mayor, just a quick
Oh,
comment if I
Commissioner
could?
Thayer?
Yeah, so, look, I absolutely support working with ClearSpace to try and come to a vision here, and I'm going to come back to vision that makes sense for the city and for ClearSpace to keep you in town, okay? Mr. Richardson, I completely agree with you, right? This This is not just about clear space. This is about, is this an opportunity to revitalize a section of downtown Rehoboth Beach in a public-private partnership fashion? I don't necessarily view, and again, it all depends on what the number is, I don't necessarily say this is a subsidy versus an investment, right? Because when the senior center leaves that building, we're going to be left with an empty building and a parking lot. We're going to have to spend some amount of money to do something with that piece of property, maybe even potentially sell it. I totally agree with some of the comments that were made by the public that, do we want just another hotel there, right? I mean, it's not zoned as commercial. I'm not going to get into zoning because that's not part of the conversation today. But city manager, it's our responsibility up here, including you, to have vision, okay, and to plan. So the question is what's going to happen to that lot? Now is as good a time as any because it's only 3 or 4 years away to start envisioning what is going to be there. And then that comes back to, I asked it earlier, what are the details? What do you want to build? Let's start talking about what it is you want to build. How are we going to deal with objections that are going to come up, height, parking, traffic flow? Okay, that has to be all part of these conversations. And my hope is that we can come to some sort of agreement that makes sense for everyone. Look, I'm not going to make 100% of the people happy 100% of the time, but if we get to 99%, boy, that would be fantastic. I'm being facetious. But we have a responsibility to do this. And look, I'll vote for this right of first refusal today if that makes you comfortable. My concern is that I don't think that's all that you need to ultimately feel comfortable that you'll come to some sort of agreement to stay in town. That's my concern. So, but if that's what you're asking me to do today, vote for that right of first refusal. I will vote for that today. I'll look forward to the terms from the city manager in October, okay? But I think we also need to be looking at this as what it is, which is it's more than just clear space. Is it an opportunity to revitalize a section of this town? Make an investment. It's not a subsidy. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else?
I would just like to say that this is Mr. Markert's last day, and I'd be honored if he would make the motion. It's a first step in what I think is going to be a long and successful trip. So we'd like you to start us off.
I will make the motion. I'm not much of a motion maker, but I'm going to make one. Let me just make the motion as proposed to engage in a right of first refusal with, I guess, the board of Clear Space Theater. What else do I need to say?
I would second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bunky Markert and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to offer a right of first refusal for the lease of 11 Christian Street, which is the Senior Center, to Clear Space Theater Company and consider and include authorizing the city manager to prepare such agreement. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'm going to do an individual call. Commissioner Saunders,
Yes.
Commissioner Good,
I'm going to have to abstain because I think this right of first refusal is missing some important components of
thank you.
of the funding.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Markert.
I just want to say, in advance of my vote, that I consider this symbolic, but sometimes symbolism can be the difference between motivating people. I just want everyone to mark their words. We walked away from a $20 million deal with the county that looked like it was, why did we do that? And I think we had our reasons, and I think they were well reasoned when we did that. This is a small, I agree with some of the comments. This is a small step. This is a small step, and it's based on faith, and it's based on our belief that this community can do something for the betterment of the community. and I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Thayer,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, so the motion carries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion carries 5 with 1 abstention. With that, our next bit of business is for an executive session for the purpose of discussing the content of documents excluded from the definition of public record in 29 Del.C, Section 10,002, as permitted by 29 Del.C, Section 10,004, B6, otherwise known as the Freedom of Information Act. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? And if you would read the entirety of.
I shouldn't raise my hand.
Ooh.
I can make a motion. I can make a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing the contents of documents excluded from the definition of public record in 29 Del.C 10,002 as permitted by 29 Del.C 10,004, Section B6. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Suzanne Good and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the contents of documents noted before us. Is there any further discussion? Did you have a quick comment? Because I'm in the middle of a motion. Can I have her after we vote? Let me call the motion for all those in favor of going into executive sessions, indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, and we'll postpone just a minute to hear one more citizen comment.
Thank you, Stan.
Your
Not
name?
that I don't, Jan Conacy, Oak Avenue, not that I don't enjoy these meetings, but I actually came here because it's Bunky's last meeting and it was Ed's last meeting. And there were lots of us who supported Bunky and Ed over the years, and unfortunately, most of them are away. But I'm here. So I just wanted to say thank you. I can say thank you. I know what it's like to be a commissioner, and I know Kate can't be here, but Ken knows what it's like to be the spouse of a commissioner. And it's not always an easy job for anybody. But I just wanted to thank you, and I know Ed's not here, and maybe he's listening, but thank you both for your years of service and how much we all appreciate it. Thank you,
Jan.
Stan, for letting me talk.
Before we exit for executive session, I'd like to tell the members of the public that the length of the session is unknown. There are no actions that will be taken in executive session. We will come back into public session to adjourn, and there will be an opportunity for citizen comment then. So actually, does anybody have any additional citizen comment? You have anything you want to share? I should have offered it before. I think we're fine with that. We're going next door. You ready, Ann? All right, it is 3:40 PM. Like a motion to come out of executive session back into public session.
I make a motion that we come out of executive session and into public session.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mark Saunders and a second by Commissioner Bunky Marker to come out of executive session back into public session. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed? And we are now back in public session. Want to know that there were no actions taken while we were in executive session. And now we are back in public session. There is an opportunity for citizen comment. Mark, did you find anybody in the hallway? There are no citizens that hung around. And with that, there being no further business, I adjourn this meeting at 3:41. Thank you very much.